Hello, Nick. And welcome. This is Courageous Heart Writing with Denise M. Simpson, and this is the Freedom and Support Group class 4 out of 6. So Maria won't be joining us, but I'm glad that you're all here, and that's wonderful. So let's get started with our little meditation, and then we'll go into our agenda. So let me share the screen. All right, so this is for freedom and support to bring your story to life. Okay, copyright notice. And our agenda is we'll do our sacred circle meditation. We'll do our goal progress, accountability, and celebrations, tapping as needed. The writing prompt, I have one for you tonight, and it will be to further the character development, which we started touching upon last week. So this is a different take on it. Writing Hero Love Support Seat as always, so you'll get to read, and then we'll finish up with our next inspired actions. So now let's create our sacred circle. Let's take some nice, long, slow, deep breaths. And pulling that air in through the nose and down into the lower abdomen. And notice, feel and see if you can drop those shoulders. Mine, I think, have been up around my ears all day. So breathing. And just coming out of the mind and all those spinny thoughts. And coming into this moment where there's no place for you to be. There's nothing for you to do other than turn off your cell phones, the distractions. And as we breathe, let us connect soul to soul, mind to mind, heart to heart, holding each other with reverence, with respect, with commitment to our creative process. And feel the seat under your butt, your thighs. How does your body feel? The neck and the shoulders, the back. What's the temperature of your hands, your skin? How wide, as you breathe, do your ribs expand? Notice that. And then how deep is the air coming in on the inhale? Can you get it to fill that lower abdomen? And then find your own breathing pace. That pace that's natural for you, with ease, relaxing even more, and just letting the day float away so that we're here together for the next little while. And what do you sense? What do you notice?
Relaxation.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Calming myself down from the day.
Yeah. Yeah. And how does that feel in your body?
Good.
Good. Excellent.
I feel relaxed too, and notice what was tense. Like I had cold hands, my shoulders and back were more tense. So relaxing.
Yeah. Yeah. And can you feel, did the breath come down and into the lower abdomen? I can almost talk. Whew.
Yes, it did.
Yeah. I relax so much, it's like, okay, not that relaxed. You have to talk. All right. Dawn or Nick, any comments?
I feel good.
Good.
Yeah, that's the same as everybody else.
All right. Great. Well, let's keep rolling then. Thank you for that. And we will have our check-in with your celebration challenges and insights. But first, I wanted you to know I sent you an updated slide deck and then a final slide deck. So from the discussion last week, these were some of the key learnings. And number one, did you have a chance to review the slides? And number two, if not, what comments or questions do you have on this content? Can everyone see this slide okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So last week we talked about interviewing your characters. If you're on your own, you could use a character profile sheet. We talked about defining characters at the beginning of a story, or some of us like to start writing and connect to our unique voice in our writing flow, and then the characters reveal themselves and they flesh themselves out as the writing process goes along. With a partner, Chrissy and Dawn last week talked about how it was great for Chrissy to ask Dawn questions about her characters, because that gave Dawn insight into the character's psyche, the inner motivations, what external behaviors they might have. And we expanded that conversation for everybody. You know, what are the quirks? What are the foibles? What are the patterns? And how does it serve the characters? So whether you're writing nonfiction or fiction, if you're even writing poetry, as has happened in some of previous classes I've taught, you know, if it's a poem about the moon can take on a character. So some of this can be extrapolated to other genres, right? And then we did talk about the cycle of the writing energy, where, you know, if you have a big push, Lauren talked about a big push, and then she needed some self-care. And this is what it's like. It's that writing, production, you know, results, do your celebrations, okay? But then you need that self-care, rejuvenation to re-energize. And without the pusher pushing you forward, that re-energized piece is so crucial so that you can maintain that energy for writing. All right. And obviously you have to adapt to life with what's going on. So celebrate, celebrate, celebrate. So you sustain momentum. And then I provided you today the writing energy cycle. So here's the self-care, the writing, and then celebrate when you get those results. There's the re-energize, and that allows you to go back into the writing cycle. What comments or questions do you have on that? And how useful was it?
I think it helps remember rewarding yourself for even just the littlest things that you might think are very minor, like, okay, I wrote for 15 minutes, but I wrote for 15 minutes, or fit it in even maybe for even less than that. So, and I don't always remember to do that, but remembering to say, like, I did a little bit, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because think about it, you know, when you're raising a child, you celebrate them for every single time they get that little red ring on top of the Fisher-Price triangle with all the little red rings, right? When they tie their shoe, and nowadays we've got Velcro, but it's like you nurture and you encourage those little ones for every little step they take towards their goals. So why are you no different, even though you're an adult, when you're starting out writing, or you're trying to up level into a new mastery of writing? That nurturing piece, that's what you're doing. So instead of the inner critic sitting on the shoulder, like, you're not good enough, why'd you do it that way? Right. How encouraging is that? I don't think so, not so much. It can be more the WTF. But when we get into that celebration piece, Lauren, as you're saying, it's like, I wrote for 10 minutes. I got a new idea. I added this to the character. Oh, what about? That's what's going to build that momentum and keep you going. That's what I'm trying to teach you.
Yeah.
Okay? And it's not to condescend to you. That's not where I'm coming from. It's not being disrespectful. You are adults, but it is nurturing that creative muse inside of you that might be a little scared and insecure.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, so that's what that's all about. So, okay. And so now let's go on to any further questions on that, by the way, or comments. Jump in at any time. You guys know that, right? Okay, so let's go to our goals and our check-in then. And this could be a free-for-all. Just jump in there. Who wants to go first? I'm not going in order. How did it go this week?
Go. I did a good chunk of writing. I'm pretty much done chapter 16.
Woohoo!
Better at the end. And I have to admit that today at work, I was just thinking about the chapter and not liking it and thinking I might scrap it. And then I came home, I took a nap, and now I feel a lot better about that chapter. I don't want to scrap it. I might edit it a little bit, but
Woohoo! Celebration!
state of mind is everything.
State
When
of
you're
mind.
tired and
Go ahead.
when you're tired walking around on a rainy, dark day, you're not seeing it in the same way.
Beautiful point,
Which I
Nick.
have-
So well said. Yeah, and you know the acronym HALT. When you're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, that's when we can be so hard on ourselves, or that inner critic can crop up. It's like, it's not good enough. You want to scrap the whole thing, but you stop. And then the best part is that you napped. And you know what you do when you nap? It gives your mind a whole chance to like just shut down, slow down, and it hits the reset button. Your consciousness loosens from that everyday beta state to go, and then you get to reevaluate it. So beautiful job. Instead of hitting the delete button on the computer and blowing the whole thing up. So that's a huge awareness. Big insights, loving it. Can anybody else relate to what Nick just described?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have to walk away from it in order to come back later and appreciate it. Sometimes I walk away like, oh my God, what am I doing? And then I'll read it later and be like, and I'll look at it in a different light, I guess. And then sometimes my best ideas come on the times when I'm not writing, because I'll think about what I wrote and then I'll think of additions that will make it better later on. So
Yep. And what you're also describing is that process of if the subconscious sort of percolates when you sleep, when you dream, when you nap, or when your focus is elsewhere, your subconscious can be mulling it over.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's that aha moment. This is what I can do.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm going to give you a technique here. This is a coaching technique. You want one?
Sure.
Okay. So the other question you can ask yourself is, how can I be so grateful that my characters are all fully fleshed out? Or how can I be so grateful that, and you fill in the blank with something that's already accomplished. And what that does is it bypasses the conscious mind, which has to figure it out and get the answers. And analysis paralysis, right? That's the conscious mind. But when you say, how can I be so grateful that, as if it's already done, the subconscious just goes, oh, okay, we can figure that out. And watch what happens.
Okay.
Yeah. So for writing, for money, how can I be so grateful that a new car showed up? Like there's different ways to use that. So, and it gets us out of our consciousness. It gets us out of our own way, if you will, from the sabotage.
Yeah.
So that's a good one. Write that one down. And I'll add a slide in here for next week too, for the replay. Okay. All right, cool. Thanks, Chrissy.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Nick. Yep. All right. And then who's next on the check-in?
I can go.
Great. Thanks, Dawn.
Oh, Lauren.
Lauren, sorry.
That's okay.
I was typing. Okay.
No worries. I did some tapping. I didn't do as much as I probably wanted to. I did a little bit of tapping and worked on another blog post.
All right. And how does it feel to do some tapping and a blog post?
The tapping felt good, and I'd like to continue it more. Just I didn't really need it towards the end of the week, but I definitely want to keep using it because it was really helpful. And working on the blog post, I was glad I found some time to work on it.
Great. Love it. Okay, blog posts. Yay, Lauren. Woohoo. Yeah, and that's the thing. You can use, and I probably don't make enough of a point about this. You can definitely use tapping to boost the momentum, to boost the positivity, not just for healing trauma, which it's excellent at, right? Not just for dealing with the negativity, but to really keep you, and it's like to create excellence. So loving it, and try it. And if you're you know, if you don't believe me or you're curious about it, try it for a week and see what happens. So, all right, great. Thanks, Lauren. And who's next?
I'll go.
Hey, Chrissy.
My story was similar this week to Nick's, where I wrote something and then I was like, where the heck am I going with this? And then I let like just 2 sentences really bother me. So I was using it as a procrastination technique. I certainly know, but I think walking away from it for a little bit, and then I read it to Dawn.
Okay.
And she was like, there's a lot of good parts in there. But it was just that one part that was bothering me, but I fixed it. So I felt better, but I was totally aware that I was like using it to delay the process.
Yeah. Okay, and what's the benefit of that? What, you know, see, that's the thing too. You want to ask yourself, like, what's the benefit of delaying the process?
Well, in the meantime, I mean, I think about character motivations. You know, why did my head tell me to do that? Is there a reason? Like, I always figure out ways to, instead of changing what I have, because that's what I saw the character saying, there's a way to fix things, where I actually had him say what the readers will be thinking. Like, oh, that's kind of, why did he say, that's kind of bold for saying that. And so I had him think that, oh, she's going to think that's, you know, but then it ends up working. So sometimes you can do that. And I was realizing I could do that in a lot of places where, I mean, the character's saying it, but that's what the readers would be thinking. So it makes it make sense.
Yeah, so now you are considering your audience, your reader, which is dynamite, and
Yeah.
that makes it more natural and authentic. So
Yeah.
that's terrific.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to point out with that is anytime you get into the voices of the head, and we've worked with perfectionism, procrastination, the inner critic, judgment, the sabotage, you know, any of these if the resistance can be the umbrella term.
Yeah.
It crops up when part of the psyche gets afraid.
Yeah.
So part of the psyche's like, oh my God, she's writing so much, or oh my God, this is coming out so good. It's like, you know, warning bells, ding, 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 Will Robinson. So there's danger, danger. So it acts as a governor. It acts as a brake, like, let's slow it down. And then there's the more evolved part of you that's like, oh, I'm procrastinating. Why am I doing this to myself? And it doesn't feel good. Right. So what you've got is the battle of the voices in the head, if you will.
Yeah.
And that's where tapping can help break through that. And you can actually just, you know, tap on that. It's like, I want to be writing. And it's like, no, I don't. It's too scary. No, it isn't. Right.
Yeah.
Why am I procrastinating? I'll never finish. And then it's like, you can even go, I'll never finish. It's okay not to finish. And then there'll be a part of you that goes, no, it's not. So tap and voice the battle of the psyche.
Yeah. Yeah.
Makes
Definitely.
sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And chances are, here's the other key with these shadow voices, if we call it, because this is what works in the subconscious. It's the shadow. So what ends up happening is by you acknowledging them, whether it's tapping, whether it's journaling, whether you do, you could use two hands in a journal, you could do two different color pens. There's a lot of different techniques with this, but you could just sit there, breathe, and meditate on it, right? Just by acknowledging it, it tends to loosen its grip up a little because you're actually giving it some space to move.
Yeah.
Where it doesn't move is when it's just shoved down into the basement. That shadow just is stuck there. It's repressed, it's suppressed. There's no movement, and you're expending so much energy to do that. It blocks your creativity.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
That's true.
Yeah. But you were, the celebration is, and your insights are that, yes, this is what was going on. Here's my process. I gave it some time. I stepped away. I came back to it, and it moved, and you were able to write.
Yeah. Yeah.
So beautiful.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Thank you. And gold check-in, Dawn, last but not least.
I did write the major confrontation scene.
Ooh, and how did that go?
It was good.
That's
Well, yeah.
Yes, it was very good.
Yeah.
the celebration. Okay, it was like, I did write the major confrontation scene. It was good. It was so anticlimactic, energy-wise.
I'm laughing because it looks really funny how it says write major confrontation scene, and I'm like, it is, and now I have to write thanks to this confrontation scene. Now I have to write another confrontation scene. So there's a lot of confrontation. I'm enjoying writing.
Okay. Is it confronting you to write them, to be able to write them? Is it confronting to you?
No, it's like cathartic to write it. I'm like, I feel like I channel my emotions through my characters. So if like I'm pissed off about, I'm like mad about something, I'm like gonna be like, let me just hop on and write. And I've been finding inspiration in really strange places lately. So you know what? I'm just rolling with it. So
Woohoo then! Flowing with it. Awesome. Yeah. And that is the beauty of writing, for sure. It can be very cathartic. I've told you guys about NaNoWriMo, the National Novel Writers Month, which starts November 1 through 30th. And the goal is to write 50,000 words in a month. Hopefully a novel, but you could write 50,000 words of anything. So a few years ago, I signed up, and it ended up being 50,000 words of like processing my emotions about my family and and all this, and a lot of it's crap. But you know what? You go back and read some sections and it's like, dang, that's pretty good. There could be a blog post extracted out of there, but it can be very cathartic. So yes. And chances are, if you're writing about your emotions, and whether it's romance or any other genre, if you've got characters interacting in there, and Lauren, you got your blog with your little family dynamics, the power struggle over veggies, right? We're all humans. This speaks to the human condition. Chances are there's at least one other person on this planet of 7 billion people who could go, oh yeah, I get it. And that becomes your reader. Right. And I bet you there's more than one person.
Yes.
So, yeah. Awesome. That's terrific. All right. So you wrote your major, you did write scene. It was good. And more to write. Great. All right. So I did mention some of the tapping. Do we want to do some tapping now, or are we good to keep on rolling?
I think I'm good.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm good.
Me too.
Okay, but I gave you some instructions so you could do it yourselves. All righty. So let's focus on your writing prompt then for it's 7:25, 7:30, 7:40. Yeah, let's go to 740. So this one's titled, oh my, and you guys can see the slide? Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, so costumes, masks, and personality. And again, this does relate to characters because all of you have people in your stories, even in the blog, right? So is it a real or is it a facade? There's characters or, real people if it's nonfiction, and people take action. That's what they do. Even if you've got a character lying in a bed in a coma, there's still the action of them being in the coma and other people interacting with them, right? So my questions and what I'm posing to you is how the characters are acting, is the behaviors or the actions or their attitudes authentic, or are they being phony? Is it moral, aligned to their values? It could be aligned to the values negative or aligned to the values positive, right? What's the impact of an action or behavior by the character on other people or their circumstances? And what if they have a character flaw? So that's really broad. And then I gave you a writing prompt itself. When X came around the corner, she or he saw a person doing, saying, acting, or behavior. And the response was. So you get to fill in who X is. X could be person A, coming around a corner, opening a door, right? Seeing something, looking down the hallway. And what was the person B doing, saying, acting, behaving, and how did A respond? Does that make sense? Does the writing prompt make sense? Okay, go for it. 723, we'll go to 740. Take it away. And I'll set up a little timer here. Couple more minutes. And we're coming down to the end. All righty. So how was that for folks? And who would like to read? That should not be as politically challenging as last week.
I don't want to read mine, but I will share. I liked, for this one, I did more of a conversation, which I don't usually, I mean, I don't have many characters in my writing anyways, but it made me think about flowing a conversation and it made me think of describing the characters. And I thought after I wrote it, oh, I could have done, how do I, like, not even their description, but their personality, whether they're older or younger. So it made me just be more in tune with that for the future, like practice with it.
Excellent.
I like that.
Good, good. I'm glad you liked it, and that's the point of these. So wonderful. Okay, who else? Anybody else?
I actually wrote something that I'm going to use in my story. And I didn't even know I needed it. So I'm excited. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, do you want to share it with us? It's a first draft and we know it, but you know what? This helps to really like solidify these writing prompts also.
No, I'm like nervous.
And you can say no, it's perfectly a-okay.
Yeah, I'll keep it for a little bit. Maybe I'll read it later. Thank you.
That's fine. I don't want to pressure you. Okay, good. So yay, though, you can use it.
Yay.
All right. Anybody else want to share? And if it's too scary and too vulnerable, then we can move on. Because again, it's not about pressuring you guys. But it is about encouraging you to take a risk and step up with a little bit of courage too. So, okay. Oh, you're quiet tonight. All right. Well, with that, we'll move forward and we will go to the hot seat. So somebody's going to end up reading. Okay. So now I had readers for it, but that was for last week. So I did not do a good job of listing who's going to read. But And then keep in mind, you can ask for specific feedback on factors. Otherwise, it's just, it's whatever you want it to be. Okay. So as a review from last week, this was the key learnings that we got. We did talk about dialogue and whether it's realistic. And again, whether you're writing across gender, age, and race. We talked about pacing because pacing can be moved along by dialogue or action. You can, and you want to vary your pace in your stories. We also talked about analogies and themes. So Chrissy, you did this a lot with setting paragraphs up with themes of water for emotions, or burning, searing, scorching for sexual tension. There's pacing and tension can kind of go hand in hand. All right. And again, when it's handled masterfully, it can be like champagne. It can really bring spice to your stories. And when not done well, it can come across flat, like flat ginger ale. All right. And so in your stories and even in the blogs and stuff, you are writing journeys of emotions. Your writing can become a roller coaster that you are taking readers on as you move them along from the inner thought processes. And again, this is why we're focusing on developing your characters, to the outer actions. It could be from pleasure to pain, and those tensions of opposite voices that I've already mentioned. So think about that. And who would like to read for us?
I'll read if you want me to.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you. And we should have time tonight for a few people. So
this is what I'm going to read is the one that I got like wicked nasty feedback from somebody on. So curious what you guys think. So
well, we're holding you in a sacred circle of love no matter what. Even if we hate it, we're still going to deliver the message with love. We're never going to say we hate it.
Thank you for that. Okay. A ribbon of late afternoon sun crept through the thin gap in the heavy pink drapes, creating a cruel spotlight that beat across my sister's pasty face, catching glittery hints of the blush that Kate had applied to Louisa's sallow cheeks. Announcing my presence with a shaky cough, she looked up from the hospital bed, a propped corpse suddenly animated with childlike fascination. I frowned at the sight of her tiny head enshrouded in a ridiculous ash blonde wig. Lou did not look like herself with Kate's poor makeup job. Rather, she appeared to be playing a role, the eccentric neighbor on some mundane 1980s primetime sitcom. A frail hand poked from the edge of her pale orange terry cloth robe, and she patted the bleached, stiffened sheet beside her, beckoning me like she would a stray cat whose trust she had been attempting to win. The room was too cold. I lowered myself next to her small form, which reeked of antiseptic, to mask the seepage from the wound on her leg. And though it was covered with a bandage, I feared that I might still get something from it on myself. Lou, it's Casey. Speaking to my sister as though she were a toddler, Kate had found it necessary to introduce me. My arms prickled with alarm. Kate Dobbs was younger than me, 36 if my quick math was correct, but her dark brown hair was pulled in a high ponytail befitting a teenager. On her finger, a hailstone-sized diamond demanded my attention. The slender woman in her beige jumpsuit retreated to a stiff side chair as Lou turned her shaky eyes to me. My sister was pallid and gaunt, her earthly body slowly evaporating into the air around her like a puddle on a warm day. When she smiled, her teeth were chalky yellow and her staggering breath came out in little gasps tinged with the odor of decaying meat. Her chilly fingers traced across my knuckles, and she referred to me as her sweet darling, all the while her lips never formed my exact name, and her eyes darted around the sparse hospital room before finally landing on a vase laden with nondescript, half-dying daisies, the new target she fixed her vision upon and continued to speak to as though it too was a human visiting with her. You drove up? It's too hot. Her voice was hoarse, not the stately baritone of lectures delivered across the university auditorium, and it was the middle of December. Yesterday, a blanket of snow had fallen across the southern part of the state. I squeezed her icy hand, and she didn't return the affection. Disoriented, yet her niceties flowed into surprising familiarities, sorry about that, I can't talk tonight. And she was remembering then, quite poetically, that I was a teacher and a dear-hearted man who only desired the very best for my students, even the bad ones. When her eyes finally met mine, they were heavy with moisture, and she called me Randy and talked about a time when I had taken her to the movies in Stamford and treated her to buttered popcorn and cold Cokes. Her mental hold was slipping, and I knew then that she had confused me for Kate's father, Randall, as the words flowed from her mouth in an incoherent jumble that mashed bits of the past with tiny, though promising recollections from her present. A smile danced across her face as she started on a vivid description of me being lady's choice for a student dance. In a mortifying manner, she was not relating a memory of me specifically, her only brother, but rather she was recalling the ending of To Sir with Love, a film that I probably wouldn't even know myself if I hadn't watched it with my mother as a child. The memory of Vivi's near perfect rendition of that wobbly Lulu song now hinged uncomfortably to the decline of Louisa sitting in the bed next to me. She sniffled then, and I pulled back. The wig was askew, and she rubbed my skin with that cold, bony thumb. Remember, Randy, you spilled your popcorn all over the floor. Sure, Lou. She grinned, sleepy and placated then, her drooping eyelids fluttering at the television, a blonde anchor on cable news spouting cryptically about the 2016 election like a doomsday prophet, the diatribe overshadowed by my sister's not quite lucid ramblings. I'm scared, Randy. A single tear trickled down her papery cheek, the sparkling on her face disappearing as Kate stood to pull the drapes taut, extinguishing the sun's intrusion. Assuming she was afraid of her encroaching death, I listened to her, my own guilt magnifying my empathy. My books. Her eyes were filled with terror. Everything I've written has been a lie. She uttered her words with wobbly, pathetic finality. Kate's muffled sobbing became a third companion in the room, yet Lou's stare focused on me alone, and I saw that she was slowly transcending her corporeal form. She was my sister only in the sense that her blood matched my own, and she was esteemed feminist scholar and women's studies professor, Louisa Brantley, only that formerly, before the dementia of impending death seized her thinking, she could lay claim to the vast body of work and school of thought that was her own. But she had regressed to this, a dying sunset on a long and sweltering day, and her mind now belonged to that of a young child who could no longer bathe herself or tend to her own bathroom needs. Uncertain of my own failing composure, I leaned closer to hug her, and she went limp against me, a rag doll with the roughness of her wig like bits of steel wool irritating my face, and the putrid scent of her unwashed ears thickened my nose. We stayed like that for too long, until the news program ended and the talking head was silenced for a moment. Kate lightly touched my shoulder, and the nurse who had joined us told me that it was time for Lou's medicine. My sister came apart from me so easily, a dead moth brushed away from where it had lain itself to perish on an outdoor lamp. Wiping my own tears and no longer certain that Lou was operating in any tangible reality, I excused myself to the anonymity of the hospital's warm cafeteria, where tightly wrapped desserts and styrofoam coffee cups offered comforting reminders of normalcy from a time when her cancer had been in remission, or before she'd even been diagnosed with the demon, when she was distant and removed from me, and we had blissfully pretended that the other barely existed. The next day, Louisa, my brilliant, estranged half-sister, my only sibling and my only living relative, passed away peacefully. I bunched my navy blue peacoat around my shoulders, rubbed my hands on my corduroy pants, and walked from the hospital as her dying wishes were revealed in a neat letter her former teaching assistant had found, squarely placed on the bare desk in her sunroom back at her farmhouse, just up from the university. Please do not allow my brother James Casey Brantley or my goddaughter Catherine Dobbs to be a part of my final days. With tenacity, Louisa. Do you want me to go on or do you want me to stop?
You can go on some more. I think, who else is going to read tonight? Are three of you going to read?
I'll read.
Nick? Lauren?
I can, but I don't have to tonight.
Why don't you give it like another 5 minutes or so, Dawn?
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
In the months following her death, I waited for a sign from my sister that she was still there with me somehow, and that maybe after she had finally drifted off this mortal coil, she had stopped hating me. It never came. No bright red cardinals singing outside the backslider or dull pennies discarded on the sidewalk, emblazoned with her birth year of 1951. While I expected strange lights in the hallway or a warm breeze out of place on a day near Christmas, the only nod from the universe were the neon flashes of a cop cruiser as a statey pulled me over doing 87 and a 65 and wordlessly wrote me a ticket, glaring at me as he passed the citation over the window's threshold. You'll kill someone going that fast. It's the holidays. No one wants to hear a loved one's been killed because of someone else's failure to think of anyone but themselves. Delivered with the deadpan wisdom of a fortune cookie, the cop nodded at me. I accepted the citation. After the hospital had disclosed to Kate and me that we had been wanted visitors for Lou, squatters come to gawk at her last gasps of life, Her nominated next of kin was identified as the unknown Shannon Tiller, an ex-lover maybe, but a person neither related to Lou nor any longer in her life at the time of her passing. Instead, Kate's brother, Nick Dobbs, my lifelong best friend, had taken it upon himself to place his attorney, Hopper, in charge of assisting with the service and sorting Lou's affairs. In making her end-of-life plans, my sister had dotted all of her I's and crossed all of her T's with precision. She had written her own flowery obituary, naming each of her books where most people would list cherished children or devoted loved ones. The write-up lacked the warmth of someone who had lived a bountiful existence and painted her as a Dickens-like character who had lived on the edge of society, wrapped in an air of unapproachable mysticism. Young feminists flocked to fill the coveted graduate student positions within Dr. Brantley's esteemed university courses. My eyes glazed with a mixture of rage and disgust as she carried on with her own accolades. Exempt from the tediousness of her biography were myself, Kate, and Louisa's parents, my own father and her never-mentioned mother. I floated through those days when her passing was fresh, detached from reality, questioning why I deserved any outpouring of support when doubtlessly I knew that I had been a terrible brother, and with that, a terrible person. The high school Sunshine Committee sent me a basket of jams, jellies, and nondescript tins of smoked meat. Dick Palmer, the head of the English department, gave me a sappy drugstore greeting card and $100 to a local restaurant in case I wanted to take myself out for a nice meal in my sister's memory. Other teachers cooked and baked things or sent me random emails of support. The casseroles and muffins I discreetly launched into the trash can as soon as I returned home each day. The emails I barely read and most I did not reply to. I couldn't comprehend why losing a family member equated unwanted food and hollow outreach, yet I suppose people needed to feel good about themselves that they had attempted to comfort me with their insincerities. Playing along, I gracefully penned terse thank you notes and dutifully washed their Pyrex dishes, stacking them labeled by the teachers' mailboxes in the staff room. Truthfully, the ones who said nothing at all did the most for me. The people who saw me in the hallway and smiled and said, "Hey, Casey," and still told me jokes, treating me like that particular day was just like any other and I wasn't somehow marked as wounded or fragile. The only sympathy I truly appreciated were the cards from the students, written in colored inks with their cheery handwriting, sharing quaint inside jokes and silly drawings. They were the ones who mattered. At dismissal, the day before the holiday break, Kayla Seck, a senior, had approached me in the classroom, her tall body rising gracefully from her chair. She stopped in front of my desk, her face scrunched with second guessing, before she blurted out her thoughts. "I read her books, you know, all 7 of them." Delivered like it was just an interesting fact, Kayla shrugged. She was bitter. Some people thought she was liberated, but I found her sad. A hint of Kayla's pearly teeth shone as she gnawed on her lower lip. She was an angry and entitled person, a mean old crone, at least by that last one. My student stood there waiting for my rebuttal to her criticism that I could not give her. But over Christmas vacation, I located my paperback first edition copy of The Disloyal Man and the Unbecoming of His Mate, shuffled the pages to the stink of decades of mildewing paper hitting my nose, and left it on Kayla's desk as I was passing back graded essays. "Are you for real? This one is out of print." I nodded at her, and at the end of my lecture, she appeared at my desk, a long finger silently pointing to the inscription that my sister had written to me in harsh red ink, just below the sparse dedication to our father, perfectly alive at the time of her publication back in 1977. "To my brother, James Casey, don't believe everything you read, except for this, believe this, Lou, September 1995. You want me to have this?" Behind her purple reading glasses, Kayla's eyes were wide. "Yes, if you'd like it, it's yours." She squinted at me, and for a moment I wondered if I had insulted this promising young woman by offering my sister's outdated and vitriolic take on the intended role of a spouse. I'll keep it for a bit. Can I make notes in it?" "Sure." Good. She stuffed the book into her backpack and walked out the door. By the end of February, she still hadn't returned the book to me, nor had she brought the topic of my sister up again. At that point, I had tucked Kayla's interest in Louisa away and had started to move past her death myself. But like Lou's cancer, I feared that my sister's sway over me would not be so easily diminished. And I'll end there.
Wow. Wow. Okay, feedback for Dawn. Woo. Powerful.
Yeah. So many good descriptions. The bleach stiffened sheets, the reeked of antiseptic in the room, the arms prickled with alarm, the shifting of her shaky eyes, a lot of good verbs in there. And you know what I like what you do is you describe, even though it's Casey's point of view, but you're describing what Louisa is seeing, which is a great way to show your environment through somebody else's eyes, but he's, you know, he knows what he's seeing. So I like how you do that. The heavy with moisture, the eyes heavy with moisture, the incoherent jumble. The descriptions of the wig were great, and the dying sunset line, I love that analogy. The bits of steel like wool. Even the description of the cafeteria with the foam cups and everything. You really bring us there and what it's like going to see somebody that's in that state. So very good. Good job.
Thank you.
Very visual, yes.
Yes.
Other feedback.
I agree. The descriptions, you had a way of describing it, and I felt her fleeting presence. I felt her like leaving and dying with all of your descriptions. So the way you told it, it was very powerful.
Thank you.
Yeah, you definitely did a great job of showing us the illness rather than just telling us. It was so well described. You know, perfect visual in my head there. And just uncomfortable enough. I think it was very, very good.
Thank you.
That's a very good point. It's just uncomfortable enough. Thank you for saying that, Nick, because it is. It's almost like, you know, that car accident or the dead animal in the road, like you want to look, but you don't want to look, but it's like, just keep looking, but you look anyway type thing. It's just uncomfortable enough, but that's the tension. That's the grip of these emotions. You took us on that emotional journey for sure. Definitely all those descriptions and consistently throughout. So Dawn, you've got a really strong writing voice, and then your use of vocabulary also, like vitriolic and everything, you know, the corpse was propped, all the details you use, that orange robe, the seepage, right? And so it was the visual, but it's also the smells, and it's the textures, the bony, the skin, like you've got all those senses in there. Prickled with alarm, I picked up on. Oh, the body evaporating like a puddle on a summer's day.
Oh, yeah.
I'm paraphrasing, but like that was super, man. Yeah. You know, half dying daisies, like that's the other thing. You use the daisies as an analogy, and then your use of the snowy day and then her icy hand. That was really cool. Okay. Confusing over the brother familiarity. So here's my deal with the word familiarity. Sometimes it rolls off the tongue very easily, and other times I can't save that word to save my life. So excuse me, I have learned to be very judicious whether I put it in or not, and can I find a different word that's easier to say.
It's so terrible because I do that with like so many words because I just can't, like, I don't even know what it is. It's really like the other one that I can't say is fruition. Like I can never pronounce that like correctly, so I don't use that ever. Do you think it's just that I should not should take it out on the that I have to read it out loud? It's so
well, that's what I want you to consider. I want you to consider, if this was in a book reading and you were nervous, would you be able to let familiarity roll off your tongue? And
no, I'm gonna watch it no matter what. Like I'm gonna watch it.
So you know, find a slightly different way to say it. It's like the familiarness with, right? Yeah. And still familiarity is the correct. Otherwise, you just have to slow down. Fruition, familiarity, but it's like even now I'm like forcing it, right? So you know, sometimes you just have to like craft that sentence to get that word out of there. That's up to you. I'm just presenting because I'm presenting my struggle with it. So when you said
like, it's there.
Yeah,
It's a
and
really
my
good-
father cannot say that word to say that word to save his life either. So it's, I don't know if it's genetic or not, but okay.
Yeah,
So I
it's-
just wanted,
I have that with a few different words. So
so as writers, here's the key lesson learned. As writers, find those words that are your Achilles heel, and you either prepare yourself for them, you practice them, you master them, or you substitute. Okay. All right. Yeah, the smile dancing was great. Sobbing became a companion. When you made the sobbing become a companion as if it's another person, holy smokes. Like that's powerful. You're presencing the sobbing. Steel wool was great, and then we like you smelled it too long or something, or you held that hug too long. That was really cool. The dead, the moth to the lamp, really good analogy. So all of these. Now the only thing, if by other way of suggestion, did you say towards the end mortal coil?
yeah, that's from Shake. That's actually you can say that, I think, because it's been so long.
Okay, because otherwise I was questioning if not, if is that a cliche, but if you're purposefully using that, then go for it. Yeah.
I'm using it because he's a high school English teacher, so he occasionally throughout his voice will make like these like, can I say this, like kind of like, let me insert my profession into like it's kind of like one of those like kind of entitled things that he does with
Pretentious.
his character.
Yeah.
Yes, that like pretentious things that he does.
Yeah.
I was thinking that you were going to say I can't say that because it's a Shakespeare quote, but it's
No.
Okay. No, yeah, it's definitely been a while since Shakespeare wrote it, so I think you're okay on copyright. No, that's fine. And you know what? That speaks to the character development, this in the quirks and the foibles. It's pretentious. It's, it might be on arcane saying that this character Randy comes out with. So it's like, you know what? So you're right on target then. All right. Yeah. And then not marking the wounded. So overall, the technicalities are all there, and the emotions are there, the senses are there, the smells, the sights, the sounds. So it's like I was enthralled. So when you said, "Can I stop reading or could I go?" It's like, no, continue. So
thank you. That's
yeah,
good.
keep going. And definitely the styrofoam cups. I mean, because I lost my brother-in-law in the hospital over a year ago, but it's like so much of that's so relatable. It's like people are going to get the half-dead flowers in the styrofoam cups, the comfort, the normalcy of the cafeteria. It's like all those cellophane wrapped foods, right? Yeah, get it. Totally got it. So, all right, cool.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Who's next?
I can go.
Okay, Nick. Great. Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, Nick, can I say one more thing to Dawn?
Yep.
So Dawn, you're always commenting on Nick writing in a woman's voice. You were writing in the voice of the man, Randy, about a sister.
No, I was
No?
writing, my character is Casey, but he's a guy. And I have people read this and somebody thought it was a woman. So I was like, okay, yeah.
No, all right. So I got the name wrong, but you're still writing as a guy, Casey, about his sister.
Mhm.
So well done writing in the voice of a guy.
Oh, thank you.
Sorry, I got the name wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, Nick, please.
Okay. Chapter 13. Okay. If we're going to do this, then let's set up some basic rules for ourselves. Rachel says she bit into a burger. She was sitting across from Charlie at Ripper's Burger Place. Rachel slapped a notebook down a table between them, opened to the first page with the heading, Rachel and Charlie's Superhero Rules. Charlie couldn't help but smirk a little when he saw it. Okay, Charlie said. Rule 1. No killing. Rachel nodded. Obviously, this is about helping people, not being murderers. As she spoke, she jotted down the rule. Rule 2, Rachel continued. Let the enemy attack first. We're not actually looking for violence, just to end it. Charlie kept going. Rule 3. Don't get into a fight we can't win. If we can avoid a fight, we do so. So far, this is going well, he thought. It had been a couple of weeks since he had agreed to help others and fight crime with Rachel. Even now, the concept still felt a bit ridiculous. They were high schoolers planning to go out and stop criminals and protect people. Rachel's right, though. They had the ability to stop bad people, so why shouldn't they? Maybe we should get masks. Protect our identities, Rachel said, breaking Charlie out of his train of thought. He rolled his eyes. I'm a teenage wizard. I think people will be able to narrow it down pretty quickly. Well, I'm going to wear one, Rachel said. I want to do this, but I don't want my loved ones becoming collateral damage. She had a point. Charlie's family could take care of themselves, but doing this could bring danger on Rachel's. Okay, we'll find you a mask, he said. And maybe I'll find something for myself to wear. No Spanx, though. This elicited a snort from Rachel. You could probably pull it off, she attempted to say through laughter. Hey, Charlie! Charlie groaned and turned to see that Lily had just come in, flanked by her two friends. The three cheerleaders came over to their booth eagerly. Hi, Lily, Charlie said as politely as possible. What are you doing? Lily asked, noticeably not looking at Rachel. What most people do in fast food joints, Lily. We're having lunch. What was that? Lily's friend with tight blonde ponytail suddenly snapped. What? Charlie asked, genuinely confused. The girl, Tracy, pointed at Rachel. She just had a notebook when we were coming over here. Are you hiding something? It's just a private notebook, Rachel said calmly. None of your business. You seemed real eager to hide whatever you had written. Or I just figured you didn't want to see my math homework when you came over to talk to us. Tracy wasn't giving up. Math homework? Nobody wants to hide math homework. Let it go, Tracy, Stacy said. Literally ignoring her friends, turned to Rachel as if just noticing she was there. Oh, Rachel, nice to see you here too. I want to apologize for that kick I threw at you. It was immature and a cheap shot. Charlie watched as Rachel gave Literally a smile. It's okay. I've gotten over it, honestly. And hey, maybe with some practice you can actually hit me. Literally's eyes narrowed. Trust me. If I had actually wanted to hurt you, I would have. Sure, Rachel said. Charlie remembered Literally flipping him on his back during the first class. Somehow he didn't think Literally was bluffing. So we're going to play mini golf. You want to come? Larry said, turning back to Charlie. Charlie shook his head. Sorry, David just got in some parts for the van. We've got plans to work on it this afternoon. I'm going with Holly and Shannon to get Halloween costumes, Rachel said, though Charlie was pretty sure they both knew Larry hadn't been inviting her. Suit yourself, Larry said. We'll see you at school. Have fun playing with your car. It's a van, Charlie corrected. It's a hunk of junk, Rachel said, as the girls walked away. A hunk of junk that we're going to make fly, Charlie replied happily, sipping on his root beer. Rachel rolled her eyes. Sure. Hey, we should think about what kind of gear we want when we're out there. Charlie nodded. That'll depend on what we end up actually facing. I suppose weapons might be good, and something to help if we need to get away quickly. A loud sucking sound came as he got to the end of his soda. I think for our first night, we should aim small. Thugs giving people a hard time, purse snatchers. Small petty crimes. No need to rush into stopping a bank robbery yet or anything. The sucking noise became louder as Charlie tried to make sure he'd gotten all of his drink. Richard quickly grabbed the cup out of his hands, yanking it out of his mouth as well. Hey! He cried indignantly. It's empty, Charlie. I'm just sparing everybody else here from that awful sound. She got up and tossed the cup into the trash and came back. Okay, small stuff for now. We'll keep it safe. Rachel pulled her phone out of her purse and glanced at the time. All right, I should head out. I want to try and put together some sort of outfit for this. And David's probably waiting for me to work on the car, Charlie said, getting up and throwing out the rest of his trash. I'll see you later. Tomorrow night's the night, right? Rachel asked, getting up. Charlie nodded. Works for me. Just got to assemble some equipment, like we said. Rachel smiled. It's a date. Oh, and one more thing. She stopped on her way to the door and turned to look at him in the eye. No matter what happens, you will not bench me, ever. This was my idea, my vision, and I will see it through. I will not sit back and let you fight for me. Understand? Charlie swallowed. Suddenly the reality of what they were planning hit him. Did he let her risk her own safety for this? On the other hand, she was right. This was their thing. To tell her to stand back or to run while he stayed in a fight would be wrong. Every fiber in his being wanted to tell her no, that when it got down to it, his priority would be her safety. But he knew she would never allow it. They were partners in this. Either they both fought or they both ran. Finally, he nodded and said, "Together or not at all." An hour or so later, Charlie was in his family's workshop / underground garage with David and James working on the van. Well, David was working on the van. Charlie and James, who knew very little about cars, were doing an excellent job of observing, handing David tools, and in Charlie's case, creating a small ball of light to help David see what he was doing. David was currently lying on a scooter and working underneath the van, while Charlie and James perched on stools next to the workbench. "So," James said, chewing on a piece of gum, "where were you before you got here today, Charlie?" "Oh, I was having lunch with Rachel," Charlie said. James raised his eyebrows. "Oh, really? With Rachel, huh? What's that mean?" James smirked. "Just seems like you two have hit it off pretty well." Charlie felt heat rising in his cheeks. "Well, she's fun to hang out with. She's funny and has great taste in movies. And the rest of us disappear whenever you two are around each other," James added. "What? Oh, come on, man." David's voice came from under the van. "Have you seen the way you look at each other? You get happier whenever she's around." "That's not true," James snorted. "Dude, I saw your eyes brighten as soon as I mentioned her name. Clearly something happened that night. We were meant to go to the movies. That night that we were meant to go to the movies together. I mean, besides the assault." Charlie shrugged. "We saw some movies and talked, that's all. Like I said, I enjoy spending time with her." "Yeah, sure you do." "Yes, you sure do," James said, grinning broadly. Charlie's cheeks were now positively burning. "Well, what about you and Kat?" "What about Kat?" James looked startled. "Wait!" David's voice cried, followed by a thunk, and David cursing loudly as he tried to pull himself out from under the van quickly. "She's crazy about you, man," Charlie continued, ignoring David. You do know that, right?" James looked like Charlie had just punched him in the face. "What? No. You're just messing with me, right?" "James, whenever we hang out, she only has eyes for you. She blew off going to the movies to help you with a school project for class. You're not even in for a class you're not even in together. Every time she looks at you, I can see the rest of the world disappear for her." "Oh man," David had finally got himself out from under the van. He was standing in front of the two. "You told him? Now I owe Holly $10. We had a bet going to see how long it would take him for him to figure it out." "Did everyone notice but me?" James asked, alarmed, and looked like he was now thinking over every interaction he ever had with Kat. David nodded as he wiped his hands off of the rag. "Pretty sure. Pretty much. She's not exactly subtle about it." "So," Charlie said, looking pointedly at James, "do you like her? Because if you don't, you should let Kat know." James went pale. I don't, I never, I need time to think about it," he spluttered. Charlie nodded. "Breathe, man. And yeah, take a little time to think about it if you need it." "So how do you actually feel about Rachel?" David asked, turning to Charlie. "How did this end up back to me?" Charlie asked, exasperated. "Come on, man." "Fine," Charlie sighed. "She's funny and strong. Her smile lights up the room, and her laugh is one of the best sounds I've ever heard. I love that she has a contingency plan in case of the possibility of a zombie apocalypse. I love that nobody tells her what to do, and that she wants to help people. Oh, and her vanilla perfume smells really good." David grinned. "I know what you mean. Holly has this great lavender perfume. Why do you know what my sister smells like, man?" James asked abruptly, snapping out of the crisis he had been going through. "So you like her?" David said quickly and a little loudly while ignoring James's question. "Yeah," Charlie replied quietly, almost talking to himself. "I think I do." where I'm going to stop for tonight.
Okay, great. All right, feedback for Nick as the plot thickens.
It's so good. I love the super, like the way you write it's so funny. I feel bad like laughing, but then I'm like, he wants me to laugh. When the superhero rules, and it's just the like I can just picture them like deadpan, like superhero rules. Number 1, no killing. Like, and it's just so like just punches you in the face. I was like losing my mind when he's like, should we wear costumes? He's like, I'm a teenage wizard. They're not like the mass discussion when he's like, no spandex. I mean,
Yeah.
it's all stuff that I think about when I watch superhero movies. Just like the logistics of being superheroes are so hilarious. Like I can tell that you really like superheroes in writing that.
Yeah.
Or you're very familiar with this because it's like it's real problems that superheroes have. I love, oh my God, Nick, I love when she says, I won't just sit back and let you fight for me. Like for me, like I hate the trope of like, oh, he's gonna save me. Like, I mean, so when she ever said that, I was just like, oh, I love it. The description of them observing while he's fixing the car, like just the way you write, the little things about like, oh, well, he actually wasn't really doing any work. He was just observing. Like the description of the young love, it's all there. And oh my, I lost my mind again when you were like, how do you know what my sister smells like?
Yeah.
That's something that a teenage guy is going to say to another teenage guy when he's his sister. So it's so good. It's all there. It's perfect.
It's all perfect. Yeah. Go ahead. What else for Nick, Christy, and Laura?
Yeah, I echo everything Dawn said. I also love the apologizing for the kick, and with some practice, maybe you could actually hit me. Like that was so funny. Yeah, and everything Dawn said. I mean, I just love the dialogue and it's like funny, but organic funny. Like you don't mean to be, but it's so it makes it so much better because it's so, I don't know, it's such a relaxed way of saying things, but they're just being them, so I love the dialogue. Yeah, and the two the guys talking, this is so funny. Like, how do you know what my sister smells like, man? Like I love it. I can see them saying it. Yeah, in the car was great. How many times does that happen where like people are standing around and there's like one person doing all the work? I love it. Good job.
It was awesome. I'll just add that it was so realistic. I'm just enjoying it every time. It's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. So echoing everything they said, yeah, it's just like, and the guy's working on the car, but one of them's given a small ball of light so that he can see it better. Reality hit him after she was such a strong character saying, don't be rescuing me like that. Dawn, you picked up on that really good. I love how you have your characters expressing themselves, from the grimacing to the smirking, the snorted, the shrugged. Like there's a fluidity to your writing so that as this dialogue's happening, you're putting in these words that are showing the behaviors and showing the actions in the emotional context. It's not just the words, it's how it's delivered. And you do that beautifully. The cheeks burning, right? And then his face is red hot. So it's like the startledness. All of this is really good. And you threw the defensiveness in there talking about the romance, right? So you nailed this high school romance. And I love that comment about, plan B for the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah.
Really good stuff. Right at the very beginning, again, those superhero rules, the attitudes coming through in the dialogue, the hunk of junk about the vehicle, the van. Yeah, let's start with the small stuff, not the big crimes. It's just like,
yeah,
they're serious about it, but we're getting a giggle out of it. So this story is just great. And it totally plays out like as the can't wait to see it on the big screen, or it's like it's there. So I don't have any other suggestions for corrections. It's just so well done. So keep going.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, the raised eyebrows, all of it. It's great. So, okay, for the sake of time, Lauren, will you read for us tonight? And then Christy will put you on first thing next week. Is that okay?
Mhm.
Okay.
Well, I was going to pass till next week, if that's okay.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, why don't we wrap up there tonight? Because Chrissy, it's going to take you probably a little bit, right? And then feedback. So.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Unless you want to read a short section, but knowing
No,
you.
that's okay. Yeah.
Okay. I'd rather have the space to let it expand instead of being like, let's try to cram it in. Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, great. So let's go to our goal setting because we still want to do that for next week, right? And that'll probably take us to the end of the time. So by November 2nd, class 5, what do you want your goal to be for this coming week? Chrissy, do you want to go first? We'll just go in order here.
Sure. I'm still working on that chapter 12, so I'd like to finish that and start 13. So I guess it's the same goal. And yeah, I got by some of those difficult parts. So.
Okay, super. I got by the difficult parts, and that's a good goal then. All right, Dawn.
I have another confrontation scene that I have to write. All the stuff's hitting the fan, so that's what I'm doing.
Okay, cool. All righty, Nick.
Yeah, 2 pages again. I want to finish chapter 16, write chapter 17. At least start it. Shouldn't be too long, but yeah.
Okay, I'll put start 17, and if you finish, that's above and beyond. How's that?
All right.
All right, cool. And then Lauren, my love.
I think I'm going to keep mine the same this week.
Okay, great. All righty then. So, any other comments? Otherwise, promise me you'll always remember you're braver than you believe, you're stronger than you seem, you're smarter than you think, and you are loved more than you know. So, comments, questions, feedbacks, celebrations. All set to go forth and write.
Yes. Good job, everyone.
All right. Great. I'll see you next Monday night, and you'll get the audio recordings, and the video will come sooner. This week it took me a little longer because I kept futzing with the slides. So, but I'll get them out to you.
All right.
All right.
Thank you very
writing.
much.
Have a good week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.